Okay, give me just a moment, everyone. Okay, just 1 second. Excellent, fantastic, wonderful. Oh God. Okay, so where shall we begin? Hi. Been a while. It's been a while. Um, yeah, it's been over a month. It's been over a month since we last did anything. Um, what happened? Well, you see, uh, first there was FanFest, which was fantastic, amazing, beautiful, wonderful. Would do again. Wish there was seating, but would do again. Uh, I should say, wish there was more seating. There was some seating, but wish there was more. Bar that, then I had a load of conferences, which basically meant I was traveling a lot. Dear God. Um, wasn't really in any locations where we could do streaming. But bar that, great time, good time, did useful things, learned useful stuff. And then I have been a combination of burnout, recovering, and ill. Not necessarily in that order. So, hi, we're back. Hopefully, start picking this up again a bit more. Hopefully. Um, was a bit of a toss up whether it be a games design stream or a video game stream. Could have done some F14, done some Hades. I decided to do a game design stream purely because slightly less effort. It's me talking at a camera while you see a Word document or 3 Word documents. There are actually 3 Word documents uh, that'll be swapping between on the screen. So I decided to go for this one. Um, I have no idea where we got to last time. Uh, we'll do broad strokes. That's probably the easiest way. Broad strokes, every core class is written for the game. The subclasses haven't been done. Uh, that's because I took a break from subclasses, because as you all know, we're in the month of December, D23, Dungeon 23, the aim of writing one room of a dungeon every day. We fell behind quite severely. We kind of stopped working on that in April. And then didn't pick it up. So while I was away travelling with little ability to do much else, I focused on getting the rooms done. And in fact, I have done all the rooms, including all of December's. Which, yes, I know, not writing a room every day. What madness. There is a method to the madness, in that there is the broadest description of every single room. in that mega dungeon. There is not, however, proper gameplay. You could play it straight away. Descriptions of every room in the dungeon. So what I've been doing is spending the last few weeks trying, failing probably, to write up. As those who have attended these things before know, I am terrible at writing adventures that I don't run. So I have bit the bullet, and we're doing our first play test of this system, running the dungeon, which is, it's a whole thing. I'm not ready, but here we are. We're going to do it anyway. I don't feel ready at the very least. We have a crafting system, we have a gathering system. I don't think they were done last time. We haven't written up a list of enchantments yet. That can come after. The magic item rules aren't done yet, so gemstones, runes, magic items, all that isn't really been started. Monsters have kind of been started because of the dungeon, but haven't really. That's a whole discussion, a whole ass thing. The subclasses we are. So what I'll do is I will swap us. So hold on. Currently looking at the core rules document, we will turn that one on and this one off. Well, hey, we swap documents. So, where are we? The Arcanist, which is our version of Wizard, has a class and subclasses done. Bard, class subclasses done. Battle Chandler, class subclasses done. Eternalist, class subclasses done. Inventor, class done, not the subclasses. Lawmaster, class done, not the subclasses, though we have named them. We have the Academy of the Blade Master, Academy of the Law Weaver, Academy of the Magus, the Sage, the Blade, Spellblade, and the Ward. We have, for the Inventor, their Eurekas currently are alchemical infusions. That's as in progress now. I don't quite know how to put into words what the invention they work on is, but it'll make sense once it's actually written up. Arcane Armor, Artificial Ally, Cosmic Transformer, Pilotable Construct, and Restorative Blasters. Martial Artist is the class is done. There is one subclass remaining, which is the Destructive Fist to write up. Oathsworn, class is done, the subclass are not, which are the Oath of Courts, the Dragon Blooded, the Eternal, the Guardian, the Lady, the Mass Knight, Stars, the Wronged, and Oathbreaker. Packbound, the subclass and class is done, but we have to make fragments for the fragment subclass, which is a whole thing. Scion, class is done, subclasses are done. Realm Walker, the class is done, the subclasses are not done. The subclasses being the Beastkin, Conclave, Deepstalker, Dream Warden, Glimmerveil, Hunter, Nightmare Scarred, Sea Warden, and Wild Stalker. Slayer, class is done, the subclasses are not, which will be the Cryptid Slayer, the Dragon Slayer, Eternal, Fae, Mass, Nightmare, Outsider, Vampire, and Void. Soul Shape class and subclasses are done, but we still need to make the Cosmic Chaos table. Specialist class is done, subclasses were done until I realised that there is a subclass early in the design I promised I would do that I didn't. So there will be a Dancer subclass we have to design. Warrior and subclass is done. World Speaker class subclasses are done. So what's that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 classes needing subclasses. So we're about halfway there. once we've done like one subclass for 2 different classes, it'll be 5, which will be a lot more manageable. Core rules wise, we have spells up to 5th circle, which means it's only 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to write up, and we need to write up rights, which is the whole thing. The crafting system needs enchantments. Magic items need a whole thing. Downtime needs a whole thing. The other rules, including companion rules, are a whole thing. Then we've got to write up the game guide notes, the bestiary, go through the glossary to basically make it that all of the terminology that we have used is up to date. The other thing we need to write up that I'm currently working on as a bit of a side thing are feats. Specifically, I'm designing a series of feats, generally 1 per class, that take something from the class that then other classes can use. Such as Warrior Combat Step, Soul-Shaped Meta Magic. And what it basically lets you do is it goes, if you're already a class that uses this thing, you get more resource, you learn more things. If you don't, if you are not a member of this class, then you get a basic resource, a couple of options from the thing, kind of using feats as a, if you really want to monoclass, but you really want, as part of your class character image, you want one of the things listed that the other class does, you can dip with a feat basically and get something from another class. It doesn't entirely remove multi-classing, it doesn't entirely remove the need, because there are some core tenant class abilities that kind of feel a bit weird putting into a feat, so it's better to do a multi-class at the moment. I've still got to think about how I want to handle multi-classing. So that's a whole ass thing. But that's a thought process that I'm not worrying about at the moment. We've had 1 combat test that went somewhat interesting. I had to kind of cancel the later combat test because combat still takes a while. More engaging, but still takes time. So it'll be interesting to see how the updates I have put in will work. Especially considering who the 2 characters have chosen to be for this playtest. So yeah, and just to prove what I was saying, so D23, here's the D23. We currently have a small introduction, a note on running the adventure. We have a background for running this as adventure, and we have the first floor mostly charted out. I don't believe the player at the time is currently looking at the stream, so we should be fine. I've still got some of the first floor to write up. Largely, a lot of these rooms are not exactly most interesting. The main, so the biggest thing is I have to, though it did occur, I don't really have to worry about it for this floor and the first floor. It's mainly the later floors. I need to work out a system for rogueliking the items. Oh yeah, I need to update the zombie stat block. So that's where we are. Basically, I need to write up an adventure, come up with subclasses, continue copying over spells. As I said, we got to 5th, so and the one advantage is with the SRD stuff, the spells get fewer and fewer the higher the circle you get. With the SRD stuff we copy over for D&D. Once I've copied over the spells from D&D, I then need to go through and basically go narratively, what elements are missing? Are there cool narrative beats that spells could satisfy that they currently don't? Make sure that all of the spell tags that we endorse have something for every level. Make sure every spell school has something for every level. Make sure people that want to specialise to a certain damage type have something to do at every level, if possible. And yeah, we'll see where it goes from there. Obviously, as I come up with ideas, more spells can be added later. But at least if we have a swath of pre-made spells, as players come up with things, I can go, yeah, that should be a spell that exists in the game. Add it. It gives us a grounding plate of where things should be games design wise. So yeah, we're making progress. Progress is good. Progress is constant. Where are we going from here? So where are we going from here is come the 1st of January. D23 will have ended. So we will be sure to... We will put up whatever progress we have made on the adventure. We'll put it onto the itch. I believe there's an itch.io where everyone has put in their D23 entries. So I'll put mine in there. Where people can look at it in its current state, and then we'll update it as the testing goes on. Once most of the core system is done, I need to look at how we're designing the books, because currently, let's have a look. The core rules currently stand, not completed, at 633 pages on Word. The player rules, with not what the subclass is done, stands at 649 pages. Currently, because I'm not looking, because I don't believe this game is going to be so big as it will be getting published, what I'm probably going to do for the sake of digital ease is we will make we'll do the classes as handbooks. Yeah, we'll make the classes as handbooks, which will also just make it so much easier to navigate document-wise. So that's one thing. But from the 1st of January, we will be putting a pause. Obviously, if I have a free moment, a free thought, a free idea, especially considering making this dungeon, I will still be in my free time doing some work on the system, but especially games design stream-wise, we will stop. And then for January, February, and March, so for 3 months, we will be releasing a set of streams which will be winter experimentation. Obviously, winter experimentation, as you can see in the playlist, is what led to this stream. What we will do is we will start by doing some more work on Surviving Winter, which is a little game jam game we did last year. Most of the ideas were finalised. The problem was I didn't have time to add all the tables. So it'll be a short sprint of making tables. We might do an add-on, as I have been toying with the idea of the game concept was you're playing werewolves, but what I wanted to maybe look at was what happens if you make an update that maybe lets you play something that isn't a werewolf. We'll want to make sure the werewolf game is done first, and then we'll consider other stuff, but it is one I would like to, at the very least, maybe toy with just for a single stream. What a bunch of these may be is just us doing brainstorm sessions. So we won't be doing anything crazy over the top. It'll just be, here is a brainstorm, here is a thought process. Let's see what it means. With post that, what I would like to experiment with is I have been toying with a system called Fayeearth. I would like to, for very obvious reasons, I'm not going to say I will design an entire adventure in the 3-month gap because that won't happen. But what I would like to do is lay down the plan for an adventure I've had in mind wanting to run with that system. If we have some interesting creations, games design pieces for players, I would maybe we'll work on that on the stream. But I would like to maybe have a stream where we just do some blueprinting of what an adventure layout would be for Fayeearth. Then I would like to look at doing some games design for some other systems. Partially because I would like to go to UK Games Expo this year with some. So last year I went and volunteered doing some GMing. What I would like to do is have some adventures on hand that the players, that I have some variance in what games I'm running. So I'd like to have, obviously what we've already done, I'd probably like to maybe convert some old D&D adventures to using the new system. Do some stuff there, and then we can run. I can write up my Candela Obscura notes, work on that a bit. Do some work on Die, the role-playing game, which I enjoy the setting of. I enjoyed the comics. I haven't delved too hard into the system, but I'd like to see if we can make a short 2-hour adventure for that game system. That'd be cool. Candela Obscura, Die, Systemless, own system. Yeah, if I could get one more adventure, could do. So I have the alpha rules, alpha packet for a DC 20 game system that I believe it's the Dungeon Coach YouTube has been working on. I could try and maybe blueprint an adventure for that system. Again, where I'm doing adventures, I'm thinking I'm not going to really have the brain space, just because I know my limitations when it comes to writing adventures. It's not very good. So what I would like to do is if we use So what those ones will probably be is where we do a blueprint session for an adventure. And then over the 3 months in my free time, I'll try to actually do some adventure writing. But with stipulations of I know my limits. I'm not going to force myself to any unreasonable goals and expectations on deadlines. Yeah. Yeah, I think those would be cool. So yeah, that'll be the winter experimentation period. Trying to write some adventures. while I'm writing the adventures, we can also look at the systems. Obviously, I can't look at. It can't be like this, where I have a rule document open. I feel a bit weird having rule documents open that systems one must pay for the rules for. Feels a bit weird. So it'll probably be, you will see my notes on screen, and then off screen will be the rule documents that I actually refer to. We'll see what weird games design we can. Maybe while we're doing the adventures, we can make some interesting either items, feats, abilities, classes, subclasses, who the fuck knows. We can make some interesting things as options for those rule systems to then use in the adventure. So yeah, that's the plan. It's not the greatest plan in the world, but it's a plan nonetheless. So how are we doing? Half an hour in, and we've discussed our winter plan. Excellent. We have caught you all up on what we're doing. Excellent. And I'm noticed which document I'm hovering over. So what we will do is, which of these do we want to actively work on? Let's just jump to core for now. Just so we can jump off D23. So what you'll also probably see is we'll start doing some feedback streams. So what our game design streams will probably turn into is there'll be a brief period where I can discuss what, like this one where I've described what game design we've done. What we'll probably do is we'll discuss the game's design, the new things I have added. We'll discuss whatever happened in the previous playtest period. The playtests are roughly happening once every 2 weeks, with the caveat, and it's a very important caveat, that I may take breaks in order to do games design on the next section. But what it means is on the following games design stream, what we can do is we can break down what happened in the test. Was it good? Was it bad? What's the feedback we're getting? What are the vibes we're getting? How was I behind the screen feeling about the thing? Do I think it could be stronger? Do I think it could be weaker? And then we'll break it down, and if it leads to a change in system mechanics, we can do that. So yeah, that's cool, that's good. What do we want to do today for the rest of the stream, though? That is the question. So we've done the winter design, we've done a brief update on D23. We could do some class design. I think today we were talking a lot in theoretical, so for now I think what we might do is we might just briefly chat through some theoretical stuff. Theoreticals, hypotheticals, partially to get my own thoughts in order as much as anything else. So what kind of things are we wanting? What kind of things, for those who are following, will be on the next step? So for the next step of the development, obviously, let's break it down. So for games guide advice, there's going to be guidance on trait tests. We're going to have to probability. We're going to have tables of probability of trying to go, here's the difficulty, here's difficulties at different levels. guidance on where you should adapt your target numbers for where the progression of characters are, but also setting target numbers that if you have set a target number, say to break down a basic ass wooden door, that target number shouldn't really change just because the character's gotten higher level. Not unless the structure that makes the doors have changed. Party challenges are another big one, to provide guidance on when you should use them, how you should use them, what target numbers for success and failure do we recommend for different levels of challenge, how to use them in social, how to use them in exploration, how to use them in combat, how to use them to replace a combat in certain circumstances, when to use clocks in your party challenge, how to use them simultaneous to other things taking place. So, for example, if you're in a combat but there is a ritual going on, how does that work? Automatic failures, automatic successes, where the party have decided to learn something beforehand. They know if they do this, it will lead to a success or a failure, especially for social encounters, or methods where you don't get a success but you don't get a failure. What you're instead getting is someone else gets a benefit that then could lead to a success or a failure. Guidance on marks of fate, when to, how liberally to give them out. What kind of circumstances do you want to offer them to characters? Concepts, probably we're going to want to put some advice in for. Socializing is going to be so many bloody things because we have reputation, emotion, feeling. There's a whole load of advice we need to give on that one. It's got the least in-player phasing rules because it's got the most game guide phasing rules. Exploration and travel, we've pretty much covered the main things I'm considering at the moment. So for gathering and crafting, we've moved away from fixed units. You know, you're not going, I need 5 dragon tails and 2 this, or I need 500 pounds of iron, or 200 cubic feet of blah blah blah. Instead, it's more a generalized, it's this many units of material and it's kind of abstract layered. What I've been considering doing is moving away from D&D's fixed, you need to consume this much food and this much fluid per day to do X, and again moving it into this much more abstract unit system. Because technically a meal is something you craft. Like, you don't just eat the material raw, you make a meal out of it during a short rest. At which point you would then gather units of food to consume. Like water, we would maybe consider keeping it being like you need to drink this many litres of water a day. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure how to approach that one. Not entirely sure. Active time, generally, there's not really much advice needed to be given. Character generation. As I said, we need to look at feats, especially the crafter and gatherer feats. Currently, we've got the culinarian. We need to add some more. What feats have I currently written down? Some weapon and armor group feats. Primarily because, so I'll get to that one in a second. Yes, we want the class feats, and we want some like what I call what I'm calling unofficially the background feats. So they're like gaming aficionado, theatre, acumen, where it's kind of like they give you a in-game buff like a gaming aficionado because you're training in a gaming set. They give you some advantages in stuff involving that topic, but then they also give you some more social encountery effects. So, with Gaming Aficionado, you can kind of suss out if someone has maybe a shared interest with you, with the primary goal being that you can then use that shared interest as a method of making the social encounter go your way. So by having a few of these, they'll affect different social stuff. But yes, the reason for the weapon and armor group feeds is if we jump down to the equipment section. We go general. No, we're looking for here. So armor and weapons. So something's gone wrong here. Oh, it's because we fucked around with spells. Give me just a second. Because no, True Strike's where it should be. There's you. So that hasn't come wrong. Power list is where it should be. Right list is here we go. It's powers. Powers has gone wrong somewhere. Let's have a look. M R S T U. There we go. Yeah, so temporal tear's gone wrong. That's what happened. Easy way to fix this. Yeah, which then means that everything should be where it should be. Yep, excellent, good. So, where were we? Weapons. So, armor and shields. So, with armor, you have your armor groups. You have quilted, mail plate, composite, and with weapons, you have the weapon groups: axe, bow, club, crossbow, dagger, firearm, fist, hammer, polearm, scythe, sword, throw. And the reason these matter is we do have fighting style feats. So for specific weapons, we have some weapon actions, which is cool. It distinguishes, say, for example, a quarterstaff from a scythe from a spear. Because they're all polearms. But them having different weapon actions means that you want to pick one with a specific weapon action. Obviously, weapon properties affect some of the feats. So, for example, let's get rid of you in a second. if we go to character generation, feats. So if we go to fighting style feats, what's a good example? So as we said, we've got quarterstaff, scythe, and sickle. Each will have different weapon actions, and then you'll have. So for them, the fighting style is versatile. Nope, not versatile. It's not two weapon. Is it great? Yeah, so when you roll a 1 or a 2 on a damage die for an attack made with a weapon in two hands, you can reroll the die. So that will apply to your versatile, as will duelist, because duelist is just fight with a weapon in one hand. And then you would get the weapon specialization, which would be polearm. So these ones do distinguish weapon group. There are some that pick out weapon group, not in the fighting style, but in the actual weapon specialization. So the bow, crossbow. Dual fighting doesn't distinguish a weapon group. It just distinguishes that you're fighting with two weapons. Firearm weapon group, polearm, thrown weapon. And then two-handed is not a weapon group specific, it's just versatile weapon property. Or a two-handed weapon. So there is a little bit of weapon group. Weapon group is probably less of a focus than, say, armor group. But having some that distinguish between weapon group would also be helpful. I think range weapons are fine. I think I've distinguished between different range weapon groups with the feats we have enough. It's mainly the weapon. Like, there's very little difference between sword, axe, hammer. There's the trident weapon group. I need to put that down as a weapon group. But yeah, there's very little distinction. So having some more feats around weapon groups would be smart. Specifically the melee weapon. Because if you then go, okay, so we've got weapon focuses, weapon actions, feats, you kind of then can design a character like, I want to get magic. Like if you have a +1 magic sword and a +1 magic long sword versus a +1 +1 longsword, a +1 rapier, a +1 spear, and a +1 great axe. The great axe has the better damage, and if you took the great weapon feats, both it, the longsword, and the spear will be better for you than the rapier. The rapier's better if you want to use finesse, but maybe you took a feat that gives you bonuses for the sword weapon group, at which point you really want either the +1 long, which probably means you want the +1 long sword, because then you can use your great weapon feats as well as your sword feats. And then maybe as a fighter, you went, I really want this weapon group. I really like that weapon focus that the other thing has, but my longsword doesn't, so I'm going to give it the weapon focus that I like. And crafter, it gives crafting a purpose because maybe you're going, okay, I would like it to actually gain a weapon property or lose a weapon property, or I would like it to, um, you kind of. What I really want is that you don't just go, this is the biggest damage die. I'm going with that. You want to seek out different kinds of weapons because you have built your character to really like a different kind of weapon. Maybe you've built a character that likes axes or a character that likes hammers, and you've chosen feats appropriate. That I think is cool, and that I think should be rewarded because a sword's cool. Everyone likes a sword, but I mean, if you play Warhammer, for example, there are people that really like thunder hammers. But there are also people that like chainswords or chain axes. There are people that are like, no, not chain weapons, go with the power sword or the force staff or whatever. People look at their model, and sometimes the model doesn't actually have rules for using that weapon, but you go, that weapon looks really cool. This model with this weapon looks really cool. So I'm going to build it that way, and I'll rule it. I'll have to play it some way different, but I'll rule it. It looks cool this way. So by having some more feats that look at different weapon groups and look at different armor groups, I mean, again, armor groups are probably the bigger. I don't want to say offenders. They're not offenders. They haven't broken any rules or anything. It's just armor tends to you want to go with the bigger number. I mean, for example, all of these are quilted, so you're probably going to want to go Brigandine. Um, and here you've got, I mean, if you really like quilted, you might actually want to go hide. But then you've got your composite, you've got your plate. Very little rules care about your armor group, which I think is something we could really look at modifying. Especially because at the moment, the main two considerations for anything you do is what the hit target of the torso is, what the hit target of the other locations are. Keywords, maybe, and armor set. Because obviously, you might like Brigandine. It does have reliable if you make an agility test to avoid or dodge an effect. You can re-roll a d20 roll for one. That's cool. But there'll be characters who go, actually, I'll take the -1 to my torso to get the bonus flexible, which gives you advantage on stealth, and you're as treated as being one size category smaller than yourself. When moving through places. But then there are some bits that do care. Breastplate, and there's another. Breastplate and chain shirt specifically don't have head, arm, leg, or feet armor options. They are only torso. But their specific rule is if you're wearing that armor, it does not have its own armor set, but it can be used in place of the armor set piece for any other armor. So if you don't have the money to get a full set of plate, what you could do is you could get a breastplate, buy all the additional pieces of plate, and then get the plate armor set bonus. So there is a little bit of care, just not too much. So that's definitely an area that I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but it is an area I would like to potentially poke, is getting something to I said I don't want it to be the biggest care in the world of, oh, what is my armor group? Like, you already have to care about light, heavy, medium armor. That's already something you've got to care about. You've got to care about the armor set bonus. You've got to care about the armor properties. But it would be nice, I think, if, my character is, when I look at my character in my mind's eye, they might be trained in medium armor. But I really like the image of them in kind of the quilted, hide, leather, brigandine, padded. So, to my mind's eye, if I'm imagining them like that, I would like something that makes them really good in quilted. Uh, I like a bit of everything. I want composite. I really like my character being, the paladin in full plate. So I'll get some feats looking at buffing the plate set. So yeah, that'd be something that would be cool. As I said, with items, there isn't really much game guide advice to give because it isn't really like the equipment section covers briefly that market factors can go into play. The rules in the equipment section have some generic prices for generic items, but some items may not be available or incredibly rare, which makes the price go up. Or maybe they'll be willing to buy them at a high price because they are so rare, so you can use that negotiation. But really, the equipment section. No, there's nothing really game guide wise because there's even a box saying, do you want a specific cultural weapon? Okay. Either pick one of the weapons listed and just go, my cultural weapon is like that, or take one of them and modify it and make it your own. Which is also something a crafter or gatherer can do, is go, hey, I hear you like longswords. How would you like a longsword with finesse? Or how would you like a big weapon that doesn't have quite that isn't quite so heavy, so a weaker character can use it, etc., etc. But that's already in the player facing rules, so I don't really think there's much game guidance needed. The same with crafting and gathering. It's all very player facing. Systems. Oh, what? Give me just a second. Have we disconnected? The thing says. Did we just have a disconnect? Because I just suddenly had my YouTube feed go, we're unable to connect to chat. But I also have a bit saying the connection is fantastic, which implies that the connection is good. It might be just the connection with that one. Let's poke the thing a second. Mainly because I would like to be able to see what people are doing in chat. No, it says the stream is healthy. Okay. Weird blip will continue, but I'll keep an eye on it. So crafting and gathering is very player facing, so I'm not really sure how much we can give guidance on. Like, even going how to make your own recipes is kind of a The best thing we can really do there is make our own recipes to give examples, and then players and game guides can work off that. Because in reality, you could make a really common recipe for a very powerful item. But the key thing is what materials are required. Where are those materials located? Do they have to travel to another realm to get those materials? Because then you're going into other factors like how. What level is the party? How available is the ability to travel to another realm? The specific realm you need. Obviously, every setting has its own lore specific for the campaign. Because if, say, you were in equivalent of it doesn't really work because D&D's kind of made all the settings linked. But there used to be, I believe, a conceit around Athos and Eberron that they didn't tie into the cosmology of the other settings. There was kind of like a wall around them that basically went, you cannot enter or play here. Which then meant, of course, that certain resources may not be available at all unless the game guide came up with a inventive way of getting the materials there. So it's a weird one because it's kind of like a recipe could be easy to gather for one setting because there's a load of dragons and it uses dragon scales. But if in another setting dragons are basically extinct, like one or two are left, and they're like the most ancient of ancient dragons, then scales are going to be hard to come by, which then automatically and artificially increases the rarity and should, in theory, increase the power of the item. Because if your character party is getting dragon scales off the last ancient Wyrm that the realm has, getting a +1 sword out of it is a bit of a shit. So I guess we could give some guidance in that regard. We could give some guidance in that regard. Magic items we just need to do a load of work on. I need to... In theory, I can port over SRD magic items, which there are quite a few. The main problem is that the magic items... So the magic item... Hold on. Pause. Think, collect. Try again. The problem with the magic items is I cannot it's not cannot. I have a design in mind of how I want to do magic items. Oh God, trying to come up with words is difficult. I want to do magic items, but the way I want to do magic items is not um, how I want to do the magic items. So how they currently work in D&D is that at fifth, no, um, you have the rarity system. You have common, uncommon, rare, very rare, very rare, legendary, artifact. And as you go up in rarity, the power level does go up, but if you think about it, there is one of this weapon in existence should be legendary. If it's sentient and legendary, it probably should be an artifact. The problem then being that what if a character has the broken scabbard of the sword of, I want to say Andrim, but I know for a fact that that's like a Matt Cole. I swear the sword of Andrim, something from one of Matt Colville's campaign diaries. The sword of Diomedes. Making something up here. So the sword of Diomedes is a sword. And when the character first gets it, start the campaign, it has been passed down their family line. They don't know it's called the Sword of Diomedes, they just know it as my family's ancestral sword. And it's just in their inventory as a sword. And then they finish their first dungeon as the party. We'll say they're level 3. 4. On their way back, one of the characters notes they discover a pool. The character with the sword hilt comes to the pool and is struck by an image in their head of a memory of a tale that a lake that looked like this one, the sword was handed to the family ancestor by a fae who lived in a lake like this one, a lady of the lake, if you will, and they present the sword hilt. Maybe they put it to the water, and they're given a flash of insight, a flash of memory, and they learn the sword's name. While to the common person, it was like the sword of Diomedes, and Diomedes was this fabled knight who carried a holy avenger sword. The sword has another name. We'll go with Drake's Fang. I'm making this up as I go along. Names aren't going to be good. So you have Drake's Fang. As they say the name, a blade of radiant energy emits from it. And they can see like wherever the sword has broken, as much of the hilt and the blade that remains is there as normal, but kind of glows. And then wherever the blade has broken away, there isn't a blade anymore. It's just light. And then as they proceed through the adventure, Maybe they do. Maybe they find on the surface of the lake is a fragment of the sword, and maybe it magically fixes itself. Maybe the inventor or the crafter in the party sits down and melds this bit of the blade back to the broken blade, the broken hilt. And with it comes an ability like a tier 1 awakened weapon. So it's not something powerful, it's not super ability, it's just because the super ability is the fact you have a lightsaber. And maybe with them discovering the name, it's a +1 lightsaber. Level 3 for +1 lightsaber. Pretty cool. That'll keep the player going for a while. But as you attach this bit of blade, one of the old ingrained enchantments appears, and if you place it in the blade in a body of water, it'll point north, or it'll point towards home, or a destination, or maybe it'll point towards the next piece of the blade. That'd be a cool one. It points towards the next piece of the blade. And it's an early ability, but it's an ability that kind of, if the party's ever in want of adventure, they just put the sword on a pool of water and go, there's the sword, there's the next piece. And if the party has decided that fuck all the adventure, they're going just for the sword pieces, maybe interference happens because of where it's located. The sword's just constantly spinning in circles. Maybe it tells them the direction, but the direction is like in the lair of evil wizard that if the party isn't high enough level for, or perhaps is part of the plot. And then one of the rewards they get is another shard of the sword. There are ways and means. Maybe sitting there going to the players, or maybe you just owing you go to the players, listen, there are some major pieces I can give you, but I want to give them to you at the appropriate point in the campaign, because like, the sword's very powerful when it's complete, but you're not really high enough level for a fully completed sword, so maybe we need to go through some trials and tribulations of your characters, and when narratively appropriate, you'll find one of these pieces. But again, rarity-wise, throughout the entire thing, even when it's just a +1 sword that can turn into a lightsaber and kind of be pretty war and it points towards something, I'd still call that a legendary item. Like, its power is low, but its rarity is legendary. There is only one blade of Dharmedes. Could a character make a blade like it? Sure. Would it carry all the enchantments and magical abilities? Probably not. Why? Who knows? Maybe you'll discover as you place the pieces of the blade back together why the blade's properties are as they are. But I'm now making in my head this weapon. I could make some cool stuff with that. I might note that down for a later plot thread if someone ever wanted it. I might actually use that because I think I have wanted to do level up weapons. Having that as an example of a growing weapon would actually be really cool. I'll note that down for later. But yeah, so I want to, for magic items, like rarity is a thing, because it's how common is this item in your world. With the caveat of this is the advised rarity for a high magic pulp adventure game, where your job is just to kick bad guy ass and save the day. But if you're playing in a low magic setting, perhaps you want to make it that anything of a rarity rare plus is legendary. There's only one of each of them. Uncommon rarity is very rare. And maybe common rarity is rare to uncommon. Yeah, maybe people still do have, like, cloaks that automatically billow and stuff. It's a low-grade enchantment. Fairly easy to find someone willing to pay the money to enchant it, but anything more than a basic enchantment, you're sat there going, well, I'm going to need to find the legendary item, or find someone who is capable of crafting such wondrous items. So rarity, I think, could be something you play with, whereas the power level is very set for an item. Which again is when you sit there and you go, the most important factor when making your recipe is the power level of the item. And so if you still want that magic item at that power level, what you should consider is if the creature that the item's recipe demands is not as common as should be for an item of that rarity, especially the character's level, perhaps create a new monster, or pick a monster that currently exists and give it a similar material that can drop and then be used for items. My one hope with the... Yeah, we could talk about this. I'm going to briefly go off on a monster design talk a second. Because I haven't really talked about monsters. So I think it'd be really cool to talk about monsters a moment. Monsters are cool. I love monsters. They're freaking amazing. What I want to do with monsters is... So it's going to be a lot. Maybe a bit too much, but I want to kind of give things. So what I would love to do for every monster is to eventually either be able to do it myself or pay someone to do a piece of art for each. I would love to make a brief ecology note, which is like general attitudes, behavior, common environments where you would discover the monster, where you discover it, tracking habits, maybe a picture of what kind of tracks they do leave. Common things they will eat, common things they will drink, behavioral things, stuff that the game guide can then use to intersperse between their descriptions, so that a character that's been paying attention or has done prior research can go, wait, I recognise the signs of this kind of thing. We want a knowledge roll table so that the better your roll is, the more information you can get about a thing, and kind of have a lore factor. So kind of depending on what the engagement is, just kind of like a lore factor, a interesting tidbit factor, and maybe a combat factor. So that if like in the middle of combat, you don't want to know about this thing's habits, like that's something that the game guide could probably go, okay, after this fight, I'm going to give you these tidbits of lore, What you want to know is combat-wise, this thing has a poisonous bite. This thing has a petrifying gaze. This thing has etc. etc. And then the higher you get, the more interesting information you get. Like, this is how hard it can be to kill. This is something it is known as a known weakness, or something that it is very resilient to. Useful things that if they do their research, they could prepare for. They could go, right, no one's going to use these spells, no one's going to use these items, or everyone's going to use these spells, everyone's going to use these items. This is how we kill it quickly. This is the spells that the prepare spellcasters are going to all prepare. And then you'll have the stat block, and you'll have some actions. But then what we want to do, because as I sat there was designing this thing, I went, one, I think it'd be really cool to have monsters that you could fight in a fight in a way that means that you could easily run an encounter, not without a GG, but like the GG can somewhat let the encounter run itself. What I would love to do is have effectively a table of here are its common behaviours. If either you're indecisive of what you want to do, or if you kind of just want to run it this way, you can run the behaviours and you'll go like, here is a target, here is an action that you will do to the target, here is the behaviour, here is a consequence. Which you can also then intersperse in your notes of like, if someone does a lot of research going, here are its common behaviours, here are its common tactics. If you see it doing this, that is a sign it is about to do this thing next turn. Another thing is a critical wound table. So if you get a critical hit, bits of it might break off. Either the nature of its physiology is such that maybe a specific condition occurs, or maybe you can't use a certain action for a couple of rounds, or maybe you can't use an action permanently. And then you could also potentially key off it where, because certain classes already have I call a shot, I head, blah 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 blah. What you could then do is allow for a call shot system where the game guy could go, oh, you're calling a shot here to do this thing. Cool. Look at the table. Is there a critical hit location nearby? Because if it's a critical hit, you could go, we're not going to roll. You automatically, you just get this result. And then that might unlock new actions or behaviors. It might remove actions or behaviors, but it also might add or remove certain loot. Like if you destroy the eye, it can't do a gaze attack, but you also can't get the eye loot anymore if you harvest it. Or maybe you break off a horn, which then means it can't cast, it can't do the arcing electricity between two horns to zap you anymore. And you have a horn on the floor that if you want, you could recover. Even if you're losing the fight, you could go grab the horn, we've got something out of this, let's run. And you've gained a loot item. There are different things like that, and then there'll also be a harvesting table for bits you harvest, materials you acquire. And I think with all of that combined, you get a really fun once, you get a really fun combat system, but you also get really fun monster interactions, because by including all those nodes, you, if someone wants to research, they're gonna get stuff out of it. And then the other thing you have is you have your monster tag. So if it's a minion, it only has one hit point and it can get scared and run away. If it is a normal unit, it might still run away, but it's a lot harder to do. Minions also might not have as many resistances, immunities, etc., etc. Whereas other monsters may gain them by gaining key tags like Assassin, Elite. Some of these tags are only to be used if that monster is fighting a group solo, because it's not a proper boss, but it is a slightly harder enemy. Until you're at a high level, at which point maybe a couple of elites might be in a group together to fight you. So yeah, there's a few bits I want to do with monsters. Having the time and energy to write it all out is a different matter entirely. So that's what we want to do with monsters. So what do we have? Crafting, magic items. Downtime I haven't put any thought into. I know I want to do it, but it's kind of one of those things where the other systems are currently taking precedent over downtime. The probably rule we'll do actually before we do downtime will be companions, because we're getting to the point now where the word class companion is coming up a bunch, which means I have made a promise, games design wise, that I must now deliver upon, which is, what is a class companion? What happens when a class companion has the key phrase summoned, or familiar, or mount? What does that mean? And then what if they're a companion that isn't a class companion? How does that work, etc., etc., etc. But this will be things like any pet class, any find familiar spell, find steed. Like technically, find familiar is considered a class companion primarily because spells often confer are often conferred by the class, so it will be the easier way to do it. And then I know I want to do a pet leveling system that won't be as in-depth as a normal traditional leveling system. So that's a whole thing we need to work out. And then yeah, God, I have so much to do. Like, I'm doing well. From what I gather, I'm doing very well for the fact that this is not a full-time job for me. I don't get paid to do this. And I've only been doing it for under a year. But dear God, is it draining? So yeah, I think this is what we're going to call the stream for now. We're going for over an hour, and I am already beginning to get tired. So yes, next couple of streams will be game streams. We'll do some Hades, we'll do some FF14. I should get back into that, especially in the run up to the next expansion. The other thing I want to do is also do some more game streams. So what we will be doing is a bit more focused on, I said, they'll be focused on either breaking down what happened last time, or they'll be focused on actually writing something. For this one, I wanted to catch up, briefly chat about what the fuck we're doing, and kind of lay a new set of foundation that you can understand what the hell we're working from. I will probably be updating all the links soon, and the playtest documents with the stuff that I've done. Oh god. It's that bit where there's a load of jobs that I need to do, and once they're done, it'll be great. It's just getting through them. And then realising that once you've done, you're kind of sat there going, what the hell do I do next? But yeah, no, I'm happy with progress. As said, it's kind of I'm kind of running on multiple angles because then my brain can jump between them. So we've got subclass design, we've got spells, we've got feats, and we've got D23 adventure. Oh boy. Let it not be said that I take things easy. So, what am I going to promise that I have done by next time? I'm not going to promise any of the things quite, because I don't know when the next Games Design stream is actually going to be. So we'll leave it for now. I said we'll try and do some game streams this coming week. Let's have a think. Sunday, I'm going to be busy doing that. Could try for Monday. We'll see how I'm doing after work. Tuesday, I'm at college. Later in the week is probably going to be a game. Friday or Saturday, I'm busy. Sunday, I am busy. Yeah, we'll try and do some things in the week. Okay, so with that, I'm going to say thank you all for coming, thank you all for joining, and we will see you all next time.